Hello, LinkedIn friends, family across the world. Ian Barkin here. Thought I would take this chance and take the privilege of having LinkedIn Live capabilities to come to you live from my house in Tampa, Florida, at a truly extraordinary time for all of us around the world. And wanted to invite a friend and a colleague of mine to talk about a topic that is now more important than ever to all of us. The work at home concept. Before we get started, I just want to say, first and foremost, I hope everyone listening is safe, is healthy, is taking care of themselves, is following guidance from their health ministries and from their leadership, and taking care of their friends, their family, their community. We are never, and well, perhaps before there have been big events like this, but this is one of those unique events where we are truly all in this together. And we'll all get through this together and come out stronger, I think more appreciative of our global community and ourselves as global citizens. So hang in there, keep shining, as my CEO said to our team just a few days ago, and stay safe. We are already joined by several different people online. I love this. I'm getting used to this whole LinkedIn live streaming thing. So hello to so many. If you are going to join and share your comments, also let me know where you're dialing in from. I guess dialing in is completely the wrong verb. Where you're logging in from. But hello to Talani, to Masood, to Rashab, Sarah Clayton. Hello, Sarah. Pramod, Mandeep. Linda Olson, hello, Sravan Kumar, Mandeep, David Eddy, and so many more. Thank you for joining us. So, okay, enough said. I now want to stop talking and introduce my friend and colleague, Jim Farnsworth. Jim is dialing in, I got to stop using that, is logging in from his home office in Colorado. And Jim, welcome to my experiment with live streaming while we're all stuck at home.
Thank you, Ian. And let me join you in what you said, wishing everybody and their families a very safe lockdown period and a prosperous one. It's wonderful to see how many people are coming up with creative ways to interact with each other and to get their work done. And even as I was walking yesterday, because I'm allowed to walk for exercise under the lockdown, watching how many of the neighbors were sitting on their porches and not next to each other, but sharing happy hour across social distance. So it's pretty exciting to see what people are coming up with.
It's interesting. It tests your vocabulary, I have to say, just how to characterize the situation and the well wishes of people. I mean, sincerely, we both, for sake of context, we both work at an organization with 55,000 people around the planet. All of whom we hope are healthy and well, but all of whom are also working our tails off to ensure both their health and their livelihood, and to get them set up for working so that they can stay employed in this environment. And then the second thing is the go outdoors thing. It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine last night. You've gotten to the point where you're told to social distance and really we're almost afraid of each other now. If you find yourself outside, you end up distancing from any human being as if we're all infected. But you also start to find yourself almost afraid to go outdoors. I have to keep telling myself outdoors isn't the enemy. Trees are fine.
That's right.
Maybe the pollen count in spring will get you a little sniffly, but that's not the problem. So hopefully people are still getting outside and taking advantage of it.
Well, if Denver's any evidence, they are. In fact, that's part of the reason the mayor wanted to shut down, is because too many people went out over the weekend and they played basketball and got in contact with each other. So that's part of where the stay in order came down yesterday afternoon. But yeah, I think your point is good. People are kind of, as my wife and I walk down the street and we approach people who are coming near us, it's a little dance as to who moves out of the way, and it becomes comical in a way because we almost move into each other's way instead of out of it. But it results in a nice, kind word to strangers, and that's if we can keep that up, then that'll keep our sanity. Finding humor every day is important, and we'll make it.
I think that the resilience of the human psyche and society is really proving itself out. And And I must say, if this happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and it did, I mean, it certainly has happened in the past. But now to have these tools, I mean, my wife and I literally played a trivia night with a whole bunch of other couples last night over Zoom. I mean, just if you had told me a week ago that I'd be congregating with other couples over Zoom, I would have thought that was a little wonky. But now that's the new normal, and we've got play dates are happening over social messaging apps. So it's I mean, the digital native of before is now evolving. The new digital native. I'm watching my kids engage with their friends all over the country in ways that I didn't think they could, and this is going to be so natural to them when they enter the workforce. So.
Yeah, technology's done amazing things. I mean, when I started doing work at home back in the early noughties, it was, we didn't have video capabilities that were as strong as they are today because of broadband. And so we had a lot of people that could become digital athletes back then and work from home and collaborate with each other on a regular basis without seeing each other. And now you have this ability to see each other, and it's almost like, I haven't seen you face to face in several months, but you pick up.
That's why we get along so well. It's just because we haven't seen each other face to face.
Right. Yeah.
We're both far easier to like from a distance.
Right. Yeah, I have a face for radio for sure.
That's funny. Take a quick break just to mention people are sharing where they're dialing in from, and it's pretty awesome. We've got folks from as far away as Abilene, Texas, from Ireland, India, Panama City, Saudi Arabia, Erin, Wisconsin, Mumbai, Poland, Minneapolis. So thank you guys for dialing in from around the planet. So Jim, let's get to it. So tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll talk about this trend that truly is sweeping the globe for very good reasons. And as we explore it, our point is, as we were brainstorming this discussion, I'm convinced you are one of a very, very small handful of individuals on the planet who is as experienced in this topic as you are. So get us started. What was your background, and what are we going to talk about?
Sure. Thanks, Ian. I appreciate that. I've been in the BPO space going on longer than I can remember, really, since 1997. And prior to that, I was with MCI Communications back in the long distance war days. Those were fun. Tells you how old I am. But evolved into the work at home side of BPO, like I say, in the early noughties. And the work at home side is just captivating. I was originally a senior executive with Alpine Access, which is a company that SYKES bought in 2012, even though I was not with the company at the time SYKES bought it. And then developed these work at home capabilities for a couple other BPOs, started my own company, co-founded it with a person, one of the smartest people I've ever met, and he's one of my coworkers again. And we co-founded a company in 2009 in the midst of the last big downturn that was designed to help organizations work virtually. So whether that's contact centers, which is where our expertise was, or whether that's dispersed sales teams, dispersed work teams, how could the world work without borders, without physical borders? We did that for about 5.5 years before we sold the company. And then I ended up circling back around, or coming home, as you might say, to SYKES, back where Alpine Access was acquired in 2012. So I'm sort of reunited with some of my coworkers there. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you a little bit. We've, in my experience, I've worked with hundreds of companies around the world trying to either help them fix, improve, or develop their work at home capabilities. And I think where this conversation started was actually you jumped on a LinkedIn post that I put out yesterday, which something that came from our consulting and our project management services background was whenever we helped an organization, we always talked about let's focus on the 4 S's. And that is safe, secure, supported, and successful. And then there's a number of concepts within each of those that really are key ingredients to making sure that whether you're working from home as you and I do, or whether you're working from home, working at home as a contact center agent or a production hour employee, those are key principles to follow all the way through.
And that's great. So, and to put it into, and ultimately put it into context, the entire planet is sort of progressively going into lockdown for very good reasons. We understand, all of us have apparently become epidemiologists in our spare time, but we're all familiar with the concept of flattening the curve and in reducing the interactions that we have on our day-to-day routines. And so in certain environments, in certain industries where the delivery of a service was predicated on lots of people, like ours, there were a lot of people going into offices. There were a lot of people going into buildings that were set up specifically over decades and decades to support exactly that activity. Right? It had the infrastructure, the phone lines, the computers, the ability for coaches and managers and HR and team leads and support staff to hire and onboard and train and nurture these people like ours. And so this outsourcing environment created intense amounts of prosperity and opportunity and created really good skills and lots of people around the world, but has now been presented with a very real challenge of having to socially distance those people. And in a lot of cases, and more soon to come, I'm sure, we need to get those folks home. And so, as you mentioned, the work that we do, I mean, I'm flexible enough that a laptop and a flat surface and some Wi-Fi, and I can do a lot of whatever my job is. But there are people in a lot of different industries around the world that are now being put in this very new and unfamiliar setting and framework for them. And so that's where your 4 S's is so interesting and your background so interesting. Want to start by discussing it was a pretty agreed upon topic, I suppose, and I want your thoughts on it, of the fact that working at home is different than working in the office, and especially in this call center, contact center support function. A work at home agent is a different setup than what we call a brick and mortar agent. Is that true? What makes it different?
It's absolutely true. And whether you're a contact center agent or whether even if it's you or I, the world seems to run on a misconception in many cases that working from home is as simple as you give somebody the technology or the connection and off they go. And a lot of business leaders, because we do so much working in, traveling and hotels and things like that, or remote offices, a lot of business leaders live under the misconception that it's as easy as the technology and anybody can do it, and it really isn't. And so while we're getting people to work from home in this environment, many of them will do that temporarily, and they'll return to premise-based operations because they're wired for that. One of the things that's one of the elements of the 4 S's under being successful is know who you are, know your work style, understand what you thrive on. And it's interesting. A lot of people think, well, if you're an introvert, you'll really like working at home. It's actually the opposite. People like me and you who are extreme extroverts, we're easier and more adaptable to work from home. So, the first element is really important, is to understand your capabilities, understand whether or not it is right for you. And so I agree, most anybody can do it for a short period of time, but to say it's going to be everyone can do it all the time going forward, that's not true. You've generally, the person who works from home has a set of skills and traits that allow them to thrive rather than just survive working at home. And that's what we try to build our work at home business model around. And that's really the first ingredient in making one very successful.
Okay, so now we enter this new normal, this new reality that said that 2 weeks ago, we would have recruited specifically, you would have looked for certain demeanors and personalities and even home settings and office environments to ensure focus and security and all sorts of other things. Now we don't have that liberty. Now everyone needs to be working from home if we're going to be able to provide them the livelihood and prosperity that a job does while in the safety of their home, which a pandemic suggests they need to seek for at least the short term. So you got these 4 S's. Let's work our way through them because, as you said, it's safe, secure, supportive, and successful. Take me through each one of them and how, let's explore how they might apply now to this new normal, to people who
Absolutely
are trying to figure this out.
And exactly why I posted it, because whether you're a contact center agent or whether you're a telehealth professional or whether it's you or I mean, the 4 S's are a good key. Safe is the first one, and safe starts with a consistent work area. I've met a lot of people in my time doing this who have said, well, I'll set it up on the washing machine, or I'll set up my machine on the ironing board so it can be a stand-up desk, that kind of thing. You need a consistent work area. You have one. You can see I sit in one. Almost everybody finds one. It's hard to do in certain environments. I was on live with somebody yesterday who was in the UK, and they don't have, they're in their dining room because that's all they have. They have a lounge in the dining room. They don't have extra space for that. But wherever you put it, as long as it's consistent and you can set it up safely, is really what's important there. And setting up for safety are things like, remember, you've got cords to deal with, you've got cables to deal with, you've got, think about the ergonomic side so that you sit properly and you use a proper chair. People who think that they can sit through the, I'll do it, leaning on the sofa or laying in bed. That's not the right way to work from home. It's really where it is. The other two elements of being safe are stay organized. Organize your routine, organize your schedule, organize your workspace. And why that relates to safety is, again, I argue with the people who say, let's sell work at home because it's you could work in your pajamas kind of thing. No, that's not the right way to do it. Honestly, when I work at home, I treat it just like I'm going to the office. I get up, I keep the same routine. I make sure I take care of my dietary needs and my caffeine and my body, and take a shower and shave and everything, because you need to treat it like you're going to the office, because it is your office, especially if you've set it up somewhere. And then your workspace obviously needs to be safe. As I mentioned before, it's yours. Personalize it. Put photos in, put things that mark what you care about and who you are. I mean, you can see I've got hockey sticks in the back because I'm such a big hockey fan. And I've got little items on my shelf that are mine. And whether I go to the office or whether I'm here, it's my personal workspace, and it feels like my space. So that's the first one, under safe.
Are you saying I should have bathed this morning?
Social distancing is probably a good thing if you didn't. But, we're okay there.
For the record, I did bathe. I wanted to be pretty for this. That's a great point. And as you said, and again, by virtue of working with and having the privilege of working with folks around the planet, various different people have various different means and spaces in which they can work. So this is going to be very challenging for a lot of people. Yeah. Couple that with the fact that the old normal was, if you did work from home and you had kids, the chances are pretty good they were being cared for you for at least some part of the day. And now hundreds of millions of students, if not more, are also home, which complicates the environment. We're going to have more of those sort of BBC joke videos of children wandering into backdrops of calls, and that's now also the new normal.
Yeah. And it actually leads to the second one, Ian, which is secure. It's really one of the things we require of our home agents, those that are always dedicated to being home, is that they have a place, a closed door office to work in. When we're in this crisis response environment right now, that's not always easy to do, but security needs to be a critical part of keeping the work at home operation running. I mean, that starts obviously with privacy, remembering that data privacy, conversation privacy, documents, screens, especially if you've got other people in the office, that's more important than ever before. One of the things that people probably don't think about, and I saw an article on it when I was waking up this morning, is, if you're working from home, it's a good idea to turn off your your personal assistants, your Alexas and your Googles and your Siris and things like that, because you just don't know what's being picked up there and what's being shared, particularly if you work in sensitive environments. The other parts about secure is, remember, business time is business time. It's only business time, and it's you don't work at home and do laundry at the same time. You don't work at home and babysit at the same time. You don't work at home and play with your pets at the same time. You can carve break times in, and you can build that into your schedule, a part of being organized. But when you're working at home, you're working. That's the key thing. When I was early in my career, I had when my kids were really small, I had a hat that I wore. And if I had that hat on, the kids knew dad was working. And so, the rule is kind of don't interrupt dad while he's working unless there's a true emergency. Little tricks like that are good to help with the security. Other aspects of secure, keep it quiet, protect the computer. Remember, I find myself doing it if I get up and walk away to get a drink or something. Remember, just like you would in the office, you click, to lock your screen, that kind of thing. And then remember that your company has the ability to monitor the secure remotely. So don't forget that there's always somebody there that's watching, and somebody there that can keep track of security. And obviously companies need to remember that as well, that they can monitor their networks to judge or identify any suspicious activity that might be coming on. So just think security just like you would anywhere else, even though you're working at home, and just give it a little extra maybe with some of those things that sit at home that don't sit in the office, like people walking by, or your electronic personal assistants and things like that.
Right, and that's a great point. I hadn't thought about the electrical assistants that are everywhere now, listening at all times. Yeah. Sometimes popping into meetings, just really knowing. I love the hat idea. That's great. That's the work hat versus the dad hat. I need to try that. I tape signs on doors and things saying, "Do not." It's like a teenager. Like, "Do not come in. This is my room."
Mine doesn't work for dogs anymore, though. I mean, I'm waiting for that door behind me to be pushed open by the dog who's going to come in and say, "I want to sit with you while you work."
Probably you got to teach your dog to read. That's the challenge.
That's exactly right.
If you teach them to read, then you can put up a big sign that says,
"Yeah, exactly right."
Woof. So. Okay, so the next one I'm particularly interested in, it's supportive. Tell me about that. What do you mean by that S?
Yeah, the key principle there, Ian, is it's important to have an environment, and your company needs to help you build it, in which you're by yourself in your home office, but you're never alone. And it's really important. By yourself in your home office, but never alone. It's critical, especially with the tools that we have today, like the one we're using, and all of the different electronic media and that sort of thing, to have continual communication. When you have an at-home workforce, if you manage them, it's more important to check in with them than ever before. It's more important to interact than ever before. So when you think about how many times a day you might call your workers that are in a normal office environment, that's even more important when they're working at home, because it's important to stay connected. So using the tools and activities of connection, whether it's chat, whether it's things like collaboration like Slack or Teams, whether it's Zoom or Skype or anything like that, it's really important to stay to keep continual communication up. Live coaching and performance management via video, particularly if you've got line production employees. Rather than pick up the phone or try and communicate by email, give feedback. It takes very little time to jump into a live environment, a FaceTime, a Zoom, anything like that, and give them the feedback live, looking them in the eye, just like you would if they were in the office, because that little thing, that little extra is the difference between mediocre and excellence when you're working from home. A couple other thoughts that I would have, companies, it's important to build a technical support protocol. One of the things that you're going to start hearing about in the next week, as everyone has moved into this temporary working from home, is people are going to start to identify, I'm having a connectivity issue, or I'm having an application issue. Who do I call? Where do I get help with that? And so we're going to struggle to do that a little bit and get that ramped up with all the people temporarily working from home. But to have a permanent work at home, you're going to have that structure and setup, so that people have somewhere to go for technical support, whether it's a help desk or whether it's an online forum or something like that. And then the last piece that I put in supportive is really sort of the fun ones. Social media can be a great tool, but asking home working employees to use public-facing social media for things that might be business related is not a good idea. So if you're building a work at home organization or supporting one, it's great to have a secure social media environment. That there's lots of them out there, and even Facebook can allow you to have a corporate version of Facebook so that it's all within your firewalls. It's really important to give people a social media water cooler type approach, and so that they have somewhere to share in common and interact with each other on a larger basis without having to go to unsecure things like, the public social media forums. So those are the big ones in supportive. Lean on each other, rely on each other, use your tools, and remember, by yourself in your home office, but you're never alone. Somebody's always there to interact with you.
That's tremendous. You're at home, but never alone. I think that's more important than ever, frankly, for everyone, for you and me, who are used to and comfortable working at home, and then for the so many, frankly, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of folks around the world who now find themselves home in an uncomfortable environment. I'm certain that they're scared. Who wouldn't be? I am, as far as the direction that things are going. But to know that they've got their colleagues and their the team leads and managers and friends out there and are by their side, while virtually still very much by their side. I think that's really important. Thank you for bringing that up, Jim. Want to take a quick break to just mention more folks who've dialed in from various different places around the world. We've got Jay from London, hello. Miguel from Mexico. Katrina from Boston. Cesar from Mexico, hello. Kedwin from California. Kedwin, hope you're well. Orlando from Florida. Great to have you on. Have a question that came in from Raul Bader. Raul, thank you for the question. And his question is, having learned from this forced working from home experience, do we think that some companies will adopt this way of working for good? It's a great question, Raul. Thank you for sharing that. What do you think, Jim? Are people going to get used to this, like it so much, or realize that it's more effective and efficient? Maybe it's more cost efficient, and so they'll just stick with this going forward?
You're going to see an increase, Ian, for sure. And one of the things that those of us that have been practitioners of this have been up against for a long time is sort of the whites of their eyes approach of many leaders who think that if I don't see you every day and don't see the whites of your eyes every day, then you're not here. You're not working. It must be, if you're too lazy to come to the office, you're too lazy to work, kind of thing. That's been an ugly misperception for a long time, and I think this will help them overcome that. The challenge that I think we all ought to keep in mind is this rapid getting people work up and running at home as quickly as we can in a matter of a few days, whether it's a line worker or management or individual contributors. Again, we've put people working from home, and there's a big difference between working from home and working at home. Working at home means that you're going to be there all the time. And so as companies open their minds to working from home and remote work a little more as we start to come out of this, and I think they will, because they're going to want to have a mitigation strategy, they need to focus on building it right. And they need to focus on making sure that they don't cut corners. And at the same time, if there are temporary hiccups that come in this rapid deployment over the next month or so, they need to not let that convince them that remote work is a bad thing, because it's not. It's a great thing when you do it right. And that's why we're talking. We know how to do it right. We've been doing it right. And companies need to just be open-minded about that. But absolutely, I think we're going to have more people adopt the work at home methodology, the remote work concept, and you're going to see some creative things come out of it. Companies like SYKES are going to come up with some creative ways to help companies do it. And then the technology firms, I think, are going to only ramp up what they do to make it more secure, more accessible, more available. I'm certainly excited about it. And despite all this, there's always something good that can come from it. And I think if it gets us working remotely more, collaborating more, and doing that successfully in the proper manner, absolutely, it'll happen.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I guess Raul, to continue answering your question, as Jim said, Will and Jim, I love the distinction of working from home versus working at home. The working at home concept requires enterprises around the world to accept and get used to and adapt to certain things, both that sort of human perception of, if I don't see you, then are you working kind of concept. And then, as you said, the technical landscape of what infrastructure was in place to allow them to, and then even things like their tolerance or their understanding, I suppose, not tolerance, their understanding of the the exposures and risks that either exist or don't, and were perceived but not real, or mitigated against. Because from our personal experience, literally just from the last few weeks, as we have raced to enable as many of our 55,000 person family to be able to work from home safely as possible, and we continue to, and so many of our peers in our industry are doing exactly the same thing. It's become a very close discussion and partnership with every one of our enterprise clients. Some who've had more of a struggle in seeing their way to letting work move out of a brick and mortar environment to home, but many, and a lot of them early on, and some of them sort of progressively over the last few weeks of, some negotiation and discussion and comfort, achieving comfort through design sessions, have realized that they can, in fact, have agents support their most valuable asset, their customers, at this most disruptive of time, and do so securely. And so, to that extent, and Raul, to your question, if infrastructure is there, if policies and mindsets are there, and then if the structural behavior of our teams, so that we know how to hire and train and nurture and sustain these people deployed now far and wide in their homes, then there's probably a lot to suggest that there won't be a full pendulum swing back to business as usual in a few, hopefully only a few months, but perhaps longer. And we'll see more people able to contribute to enterprises around the planet in a more virtual format.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it really kind of leads to the last S, the successful one. We've covered a few of these elements so far. There's about 5 or 6 of them, but the first one is exactly what you were talking about. Understand the distinction between working from home and working at home, because there is a difference. Understand the personal styles that you have as a home worker, and your company needs to understand personal styles to determine who should be full-time working at home and who shouldn't. A lot of companies, in my experience working hundreds of firms over the years, a lot of companies say, well, we want to shut this building and we're just going to send everybody home. The success rate of that historically, of just forcing everyone to go home, is about 55%. That's 5-5 within the first year, because not everybody can do it. And so you do have to have means to understand your own personal style and whether or not you can do it, and how much interaction you need, personal versus distance. And your company needs to understand that. We talked about some of the other ingredients to success: managing distractions, identifying your distractions. As you know from working with me, I'm easily distracted by dogs and hockey, among other things. But you got to understand where you have to focus, and how do you build a break schedule that's important? How do you build a walkaway that's important? You've got to get outside, even if it's walk outside and get 5 minutes of fresh air. Get outside and change your perspective. You hear a lot of people saying, man, when I work at home, I work 14 hours a day, and I get up and I start immediately, and I don't shower, and I don't eat enough. Well, there's another problem. In some cases, you can do too much work at home and not find the balance. And that balance between taking a break and understanding your personal needs is important too. And that works both ways. Don't forget to eat or forget to hydrate. And on the other hand, don't grab a snack every time you walk by the pantry, which is tempting when you work from home. But set yourself a break schedule, set it up. Set it up like you're setting up your own personal work at home, and you'll be fine. And then the last 2 ingredients to success: cultivate your network. It's very easy to get in your home office and not talk to people. It's very easy to get bogged down in work and forget. Take a minute, reach out to people, jump on again the collaboration tools and things like that. Those are really important to make sure that you continue to cultivate your network and cultivate interaction, even if you're not face to face.
Beautiful. And you inspired me to drink water. So thank you. I've hydrated now. It's official.
Hydrate.
Cultivate your network is a powerful one. It's again, the tools we have available to ourselves today are just fascinatingly powerful. in terms of their ability to virtualize so much. But it's just our comfort with the habits of reaching out, as you say. I mean, I think things like LinkedIn have always been a great tool for me to get in touch with folks all over the planet, and more so now than ever. And these sorts of live streams I hope to do daily, and just because there's so many folks who have so much to contribute to this discussion. I want to hear from them. One comment that came in from Ahmed Scaff, which is a great one, which is, so Ahmed doesn't think that the working from home will increase that much, but he does ask, do we see that things like events and business meetings and congregations like that will tend to be more virtual than ever before? And I guess time will tell whether we do pendulum swing back into the office. But I do think we are testing all sorts of different mechanisms to virtualize get-togethers, all sorts of conferences. And heck, the Olympics, for goodness sakes, is being delayed and pushed off because of this. I don't think you can hold a virtual Olympics. I think that might be a little difficult, especially in the team sports. But the industry events and the forums and roundtables that so many people enjoy and get value from, we'll probably see a real sort of surge in our adoption of and our exploration of how to do that. I mean, you yourself were also saying, just from a team congregation perspective, you're having team happy hours. How's that going for you? Does it work?
Yeah, so far so good. We did one last week. We're going to do one again this afternoon.
Yeah.
So that'll be a nice test. But there's a difference between 8 or 9 people doing that and 100 and 200 that are normally at a conference. I agree with the comment. I don't think you're going to see this massive exodus of bricks and mortar. You will see people return back because, again, not only does it just make common sense, and some jobs require face-to-face interaction, but not everybody can do this. I honestly hope we don't see a dramatic decrease in those kinds of events. I lead business development for a large team of people, and it's a relationship business. And it makes a big difference when you get on a plane and sit down face to face with somebody, whether you're selling something or negotiating a contract or solving problems and identifying solutions. So I think we'll find a balance, and it's going to take a while to get back to that same level that we had a month ago. But at the same time, I don't think we'll get completely out of it. And you're going to see some exploration as the year goes on, depending on how long it takes us to get over the contagion, and it'll be fun to watch the creativity that comes out of it. But at the end of the day, people do like having relationships with each other, and we'll return to that at some point. It'll just be different. Not sure what that means yet, but it'll be different.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree. Necessity will be very much the mother of invention here. I think we'll find all sorts of different interesting ways that we engage and reach out and just stay in touch as social animals and as a global citizenry. No, and thank you. It's always enjoyable speaking with you, and thought we would do it in this format and share that with others. And thank you so much for people who joined us all over the world for this. If you have any other questions, especially questions around what makes work at home work. Like I said at the beginning, Jim is one of the world's experts at seeing enterprises succeed at this, at moving large teams home and figuring out how to make them safe, how to ensure that environment and that delivery is secure, and that the people are supported so that they can be successful. And look at that, I fit all S's into one sentence. I'm pretty proud of that. And check out Jim's blog on LinkedIn, where he wrote about it. Jim, any last thoughts or comments before we wrap this up today? I appreciate you spending your time with me.
No, thanks for the opportunity, Ian, and a great pleasure to talk to everybody that's joined. It's impressive to do this forum. Never done it before. Just again, the one thing is, don't forget to ask for help if you need it. I'll put the shameless plug in that you need to find partners to help your organization work successfully from home. Find people that know how to do it, have done it, tap into their knowledge and expertise, and don't think it's as easy as just handing over computers and sending people home. There's lots of processes and things that need to be put in place, but that doesn't make it impossible. It's a phenomenal way to work. It is, work is not where you are, it's what you do, and we can find ways to help you get there. So thanks much. I appreciate it. I'm going to have another conversation here in about 5 minutes with somebody else on it. So it's fun to be back talking to people about it. So I appreciate it, Ian.
Work is not where you are, it's what you do. I cannot top that. So thank you, Jim. Thanks to everybody who logged in to listen. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to send them to me or to Jim. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, your family, your community, and we will get through this together. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.